Joining us to quantify that is Mike McNamara. He's Vice President of MasterCard Advisors. Michael, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Give me a sense, because we've known and we've been estimating what the cost has been to all the locals along the Gulf Coast who've had their, life's work impeded by this disaster. You've run the numbers. What have you found?
Well, what we did was we isolated spending within the hotel sector because it's such an important tourism area, especially this time of year. We use the same analytics that we use to monitor overall retail sales. So the numbers that we have here include MasterCard, but as well as other card, cash, and check transactions within the hotel segment. We also looked at specific markets: Biloxi, Mississippi; Gulf Shores, Alabama; Pensacola, Florida; Panama City. And what we found was, before the spill, the hotel sector was growing at about 12, almost 13% year over year. Since the spill, in those affected markets, we've seen a 25% year-over-year decline in sales. So it's been rather dramatic, and there's that line before the spill and after the spill that's very dramatic.
And the other thing in there that may amplify that percentage decline, if it doesn't sound big enough for you, is the idea that these 3 months of the year are what they're make it or break it for many of these hotels and restaurants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a high season for that particular area in this particular sector. We actually had one analyst on the team when he was doing the analysis, especially around June 27th. That's really when we saw the worst numbers. And he used the analogy that it would be like a tornado hitting a retailer on Black Friday. So it's really, for this particular category, It's really a devastating season for them.
Put this in the overall picture here. Is there a question of spillover into the rest of the economy?
Not really, actually, because when we look at the overall, for example, the hotel numbers for the month of July nationally are up 2 to 3%. The airline numbers, most of the travel numbers, the summer travel season nationally is showing a year-over-year increase. So you're comparing against staycation 2009, so they're relatively easy comps, but we're showing increases. The Gulf Coast was showing stronger year-over-year increases, about double the national average before the spill. And again, since the spill, you're seeing hotels up 2%, whereas down 25% in the affected markets.
Mm-hmm. So those hotels with really a regional exposure are the ones most at risk here.
Yeah, there is one. When you look at it market by market, though, there is some differences, though. Biloxi, for example, has the casino business to fall back on, and Biloxi has been more resilient, showing some year-over-year increases during this period. Whereas you look at areas like Pensacola or Gulf Shores, heavy beach reliance, and those have been much harder hit.
Well, we'll see if that changes when the first family goes on vacation there next week, if that helps out some of these regional retailers. We did get chain store sales information from some of the retailers who do still provide them to the marketplace. What have you seen in terms of what's actually purchased at the cash register in the month of July?
In July, we saw a real reluctance as you move up the price spectrum in higher ticket items as well as discretionary categories. The apparel sales did not do very well in July. Areas like jewelry, luxury retail also didn't do as well as they did in June.
Really, even though we're hearing from the luxury stores, the Nordstroms and the Saks, that things are improving for them, you're still seeing weakness in the purchasing of luxury items? Relative
weakness compared to where we were a couple of months ago before the stock market really took a dive in May and June. That tends to have a negative echo effect. It's not to say those stores aren't doing somewhat better than they were a year ago. However, they're not doing quite as well as they were before the stock market really took that correction step for a couple of months.
And in reading over the numbers you said, e-commerce is still standing out. In fact, up double digits in the month of July.
Yep, July, it's been up double digits pretty strong for most of the year. Certain categories are still growing, 20% plus in some areas. Children's apparel, for example, online has been doing very well. And the share of online in some of these apparel categories is over 10%, double digits in terms of total share going through the online channel. So these are material numbers in terms of the growth rates. It's really where the growth is happening in a serious way. That's
the bright spot. Most retailers want to highlight it right now, but it's still a small portion of their overall sales picture, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, even in areas like apparel, women's apparel, you still have 85% of sales happening through brick and mortar locations. So, it is some context, although it is much more meaningful than it was 5 or 10 years ago.
No, absolutely. Well, we love running through these figures with you. Thank you very much for giving us some context.
Thank you.